make a habit of regularly checking in with your software providers. We've seen tremendous amounts of development, both the capability of the technology, but also in people's understanding and people's day-to-day use of it. Airbnb would like more of a share of that guest journey, of that guest relationship.
How can short-term rental hosts utilize automation to save time? Why should property managers embrace AI? And when exactly should you be communicating with your guests? Adam Buckmaster from eviivo is the special guest on today's House Planet podcast, and he'll be answering all these key questions. Adam, thank you so much for joining us on the House Planet podcast. How can hosts and property managers save time through automation and AI?
Hi, James. Well, it's great to be on the pod with you, and it's an excellent question. Working for a technology company, I think technology can play a massive part in saving hosts time, in giving property managers time back to then reinvest in other areas. So yeah, clearly technology is a big part of that. And within that, I think, automation plays a massive part. And within that, AI plays its own little part, which is growing and is becoming clearer and more widespread as we go. I think technology, first and foremost, it has to work well, it has to be quick, it has to be accurate, and it has to be working for you round the clock. So all of that running in the background, the automation can save you time across different stages, I think, of your operations, and we generally break that down into different stages of the guest journey. So, for example, having something robust in place is first and foremost, I think, because automation is all well and good, and we can talk about some of the examples, but it's no use automating if you're going to get loads of overbookings. So, you need that robust system in place. You're going to be listing your property and your properties on multiple channels. At least that's what we'd recommend. All the OTAs, direct website as well. So having one source of truth that can seamlessly communicate out to all of those platforms and receive back communications as well is a time saver, mainly because if it's all working fine, you're not having to manage those exceptions. You're in one place, you're managing your listing. So we can take it through, and I'll try and briefly go through some of those stages and where automation can have an impact. Obviously, when the guest is not yet a guest but is looking and gets to the point of booking, they're going to be on the lookout for information, for pricing. They're going to be asking lots of questions. So already there, if you're not on top of the answers and answering those questions, then someone else will be, and they won't become a guest. So firstly, having some form of automation of responses, whether it's from the information that's already on your website, whether it's from a chatbot built into the website that can take all of your FAQ type of information and then respond to the guest. That's obviously, time is of the essence. So having that kind of automation built in gets you off to a good start. Anecdotally, we've heard some of our clients say that sort of chatbot can answer twice as many questions as they ever could, which, when you think about it, if the question comes while they're sleeping, or if the question comes in a language that they don't speak, then it's self-evident. So that obviously gets you on the way. And then it needs to be a smooth process for the guest, otherwise they won't even get to actually making the booking. So it needs to be clear what they're booking. You need to be able to take payment, the various types of payments, from deposits to security deposits through to balance, making refund. All of that needs to be seamless. And then as you get through to the pre-arrival stage and the guest actually arriving, that's where the great communication that you have, which can be assisted by automation, that's what really leads to a great experience, a great review, and then hopefully the guest starting the process all over again. So there's various points in the journey at which communication can be automated. Again, AI can come into it, but I think first and foremost, getting your templates in place, having your set points in the journey at which those messages can be sent, and obviously you can get your system to do that. Make sure you personalize it, of course, so the content is on brand for you, but in terms of making sure it's sent at the right point with the right information for that guest. Not only giving them the information, but encouraging them to perhaps book something additional, book an extra that you'd like to add. So clearly, communication goes throughout the journey, all the way through to the reviews that you prompt them to leave, and that they then leave at the end of their guest journey. In terms of replying and keeping on top of those messages, again, automation adds the cherry on the cake, but having everything in one place is critical, so that you know what you still need to deal with, when you need to intervene and override that automation. Because again, automation is great and can keep you ticking over, but there will come a point where your AI assisted responses have gone so far, but the guest really wants to talk to you. So, having freed up the time for you, the automation then hands it over to you, so that you can really make the difference between the guest having a great experience and not. So then, obviously, through the stay and then into the post stay, we can talk about the experience of the guest. There's often contactless and seamless experience that smart home technology can provide. So having lock codes that you've communicated ahead of time, having them be valid with a slight grace period either side of check-in and check-out. And again, that's not necessarily saving you time, but it is if let's say that the guest left a suitcase in the property and then they locked themselves out and then had to contact you in order to get back in. If you'd programmed everything up so that the code was still valid, they could then go back in, get the suitcase without having to bother you. So I think it's a balance between leveraging the automation and also making sure that you can intervene as and when needed. And hopefully those times are a lesser and lesser portion of the time that you have available.
Okay, real talk now for all you hosts out there. You know that moment when your guest messages you again with, "Hey, what's the Wi-Fi code?" Or you're staring at 5 different calendars, wondering if you've accidentally double booked the cottage. Yes, we've all been there. That's why here at Host Planner we recommend Hostfully. It's basically your rentals control center. It handles bookings across all the big platforms, syncs your calendars to ensure there are no double bookings, automates guest messages, and even creates these really slick digital guidebooks that stop all the repeat questions. Honestly, it just makes your life easier and keeps your guests happier, helping you achieve those all-important 5-star reviews. And here is a little bonus. If you're a Host Planet listener, you can get $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Just hit the link in the show notes and use the codes PLANET500 for the PMS and HostPlanetGB for the guidebooks. And if you'd like a proper walkthrough, there's also a link to book a demo with Frank Bosey from Hostfully. He will show you how it all works. Less stress, more bookings, sorted with Hostfully. I'm thinking of the guest communication journey at the moment. What's the optimum times that you should be communicating to your guests? If we run through that journey, obviously when they book, maybe before they arrive, during their stay, afterwards, what are the best examples that you've seen from some of your clients?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, as everything, I think it really depends on your profile of accommodation and who you are, what your brand is. But yeah, having a schedule that you're comfortable with, whether that's immediately upon booking, confirmation, providing reassurance, then X number of days before arrival, and all of these trigger points, are conditional. And by that I mean that if I'm a guest and I've booked 2 days before, then obviously my 3 days before arrival will get sent, straight away, or it will get skipped depending on your setup. So I think in terms of pre-arrival, some clients like to be more noisy, some like to be a little bit less hands-on. Personally, as a guest, I'm not overly enamored if the hosts are emailing me every day. I know I'm going there, but having those touch points before arrival, particularly if it's a long period between booking and checking in, is useful. And as I said before, can lead to additional revenue. So you can send them a link to upsell, for example. So Yeah, I think one common theme that we've seen more and more of is particularly where the hosts are not going to be physically present, where when the guests are and they might never see each other, providing some sort of personalized information, whether that's images, video, or link to a tour, pictures of where to find certain things. I think in terms of content, that's something that's useful a short time before check in, and then while the guest is there, I think you can even veer into more kind of physical, shall we say, prompts to whether it's a prompt to buy that extra excursion or extra service that you want to provide, whether it's a reminder to leave that review. That's where we see our customers leaving something more, like a printed book or a printed sheet, with information to go alongside what they've sent online, because with the best will in the world, guests won't read everything that you send them. So I think it's a fine balance between keeping on prompting them and too much of that would be annoying. So I think you can also combine that with something a bit more tangible, in the property, whether it's a plaque on the wall or a QR code printed out. And then as a follow up to checkout, sending through confirmation of payment, accurate reconciled OTA invoices, reflecting what the guest has paid, not embarrassingly what you've paid to the OTA, for example, as well as those prompts to leave a review and hopefully become a guest and hopefully become a direct guest next time, just to continue that, to strengthen that brand loyalty, and so that they can spread the word and the whole cycle starts again. So no one size fits all, I think, but having your version of it in place and being able to override it as and when you need to, I think is important.
Yeah, I think overriding it is pretty important. I mean, I've noticed a few times when a guest books, I'll send them an automated message about, thank you for booking. Here's some key details. And often when a guest books, they'll send a question at that point, and the automatic message doesn't necessarily answer that question. So, I mean, how important is it to be keeping a very close eye on the communication that the guest has been sent?
Yeah, I think it's important, particularly at the outset of your journey of automation. Once you've put these templates in place, we often like to say set and forget. Set your templates up, then forget about them because they're going on in the background. I think, and this is the same as with any kind of AI powered assistance, let's say, to your replies. It's always good to monitor how things are going, at the outset, and then perhaps over time, to step back a little bit from that. But I think it's important to be able to intervene. I mean, one example I can think of that is, if you're setting an automated review of a guest through, if the guest is booked through a platform where you can actually review them, you as a host, it's great that you can set things like automated reviews to go out. But then if it hasn't been an experience that correlates to the review template that you've set up, you need to be able to override that. So I think there's an element, and it's better than I do, James, as a host of knowing when to check in. So I talk to our customers and other hosts in the space, who have their daily routines, whether it's I wake up and have my morning coffee and I'll check the app so that I can remind myself, okay, what's going on today? Who have I got arriving this week? And you'll have your own version of that. But I think as part of that, as I said before, automation can be the engine and can be the basis of you setting yourself up for these great guest experiences. But unless you're on hand and available wherever you might be, you might be out and about, you need to be on hand to check in. If you get that call, if you get that ping message, whether it's through the app or email or WhatsApp or whatever it may be, you need to be able to act on it. So I suppose it's coming up with your own sanity check mechanism, I suppose, to just check on your technology that it's doing the grunt work. You're there to sort of make put the cherry on top, I suppose.
there are some hosts and property managers out there who are still a little bit skeptical about too much automation and relying too much on AI. What do you say to those hosts and property managers who are a little bit reluctant to get involved with this kind of tech?
Yeah. No, I totally understand that, and I think this past year, couple of years, we've seen a tremendous amount of development in both the capability of the technology, but also in people's understanding and people's day-to-day use of it. And it seems to me that people in general, both hosts and guests, are slightly or tend to be slightly less skeptical than they were a few months ago because they've seen it in action. I mean, our concierge, which is an online chatbot on a property website or property group website. We've had that in place for a couple of years now, and I think hosts, as they've got to grips with it, are able to, yes, let it run in the background, but also make a deliberate effort to analyze what's going on. What questions are being asked, take advantage of the information that's coming in, and of course that the answers that your AI powered chatbot will be giving is based on the information that you've put manually onto your website. So there are there are ways of automating the generation or the optimization of a description that you put up, but ultimately you're deliberately putting up the information on your website. And what I'd say is that to people who are slightly more skeptical is that you're not being thrown in the deep end here. I think you're being given tools that you can dip your toe in the water with, start to analyze, and then use the data that they're giving in return to be able to, again, manually and deliberately enhance your information and your offering. So and then that's one version of AI. I think I'd agree that to completely take the reins off a guest response tool and to allow an AI to completely hold court in the conversation with your guest is potentially risky, and I can see people's concerns about that, and that's why it's important to oversee what's going on, and as I say, to intervene as needed, because hopefully it's doing the basis of what you need to do, i.e., responding in quick time with useful information based on the information that you've put there. It's not conjuring it up out of nowhere, but you're able in one place to see, or you should be able to see, all of these conversations going on, to see when they've come in, when the reply's gone out, and to be able to stick your oar in as and when needed. So I think it's fascinating because there's lots of new use cases, coming along for UI for AI, as time goes by, and as I say, people are getting more comfortable with it, and then perhaps more willing to try things out. So I think those who are still skeptical, that's absolutely fine to be so, but I think there'll be more and more chances to try it out and see what you can get from it and what works well for you.
Let's have a little look now at what's happening in 2025. Recently, Airbnb's come out with its summer release. They're talking about services and experiences. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I remember Airbnb Experiences had a deja vu when I saw the announcement earlier this week, because I thought, I'm sure that they have that already. And of course they did, and then it just took a back seat for a while. But this is obviously a significant announcement and release for them, because, as you say, there's also services in there alongside experiences, and then within experiences you've got the originals, as they're calling them. So far be it for me to promote Airbnb's product. They're doing a good job of that, but I think it's indicative and it's reflective of the shift towards, and perhaps movement towards, more focus on the experiences that guests will have in stay. And it's something, it's new for Airbnb to package it up and to be offered alongside the accommodation piece. But I think it's something that, in in our world and with our customers as well, it's something that it's nothing new to want to offer something bespoke. It's nothing new to want to offer something customized that's really going to enhance that guest experience and, as I said before, make them more likely to want to come back with you, and again, hopefully directly. Obviously, again, this is nothing new in itself. Airbnb as a third party would like more of a share of that guest journey, of that guest relationship, and understand another aspect to it is if you're, as an Airbnb guest and traveling with other guests, your records get somehow linked and communications can follow. So I think it's important as always for us as technology companies and also for hosts to keep abreast of these kind of developments. Certainly I know you have as well been to lots of events this year, and it's always interesting to exchange ideas with other hosts and other technology companies about how best to make use of it. And as we say with listing your property out there, it's best from our point of view to list in as many places as you can as a way of getting getting your billboard up there, getting your name out there. If you can direct them to your direct booking website, then all the better. But it's often a great way of getting new business. So yeah, with the advent of this new experiences, then why not try out this new feature and partner up with people who are offering excursions through that platform. From my point of view, it's in that sense it's just another platform, because I know lots of companies who are already offering that, and I'm sure lots of hosts are already quite savvily partnering up with local offerings in order to enhance their own product offerings. So I think, looking to package up their room or their accommodation offering with something more experiential and memorable is nothing new in itself. But it's interesting that Airbnb are moving that way as well, into more of a kind of lifestyle wraparound brand.
Airbnb is always a new trend. They're always coming up with something new. But what are the other trends that you're seeing in 2025 that hosts and property managers should be aware of?
Yeah, I think we've talked about AI, and I'll mention that just because it's with every new year there's a new aspect of it that it develops and it takes on new use cases. So I think it's from guest communications to descriptions, images. We're all becoming more accustomed to it, and and it will continue to grow. So I think it almost goes without saying, but I've said it anyway. And beyond that, I think what we've seen certainly is an abundance of more diverse property portfolios. So where traditionally maybe you would have seen PMCs with more or less identical apartments in a given region or perhaps across regions, done up to the standard that they know works, and that's obviously an absolutely valid model. I think we're seeing more proliferation of diverse portfolios, perhaps combining boutique hotels with other apartments, apartment hotels, glamping pods, and other outdoor accommodations, perhaps in combination with the pubs with rooms. And some of those have been in our client base, which has historically been quite diverse anyway, across hotels and B&Bs and apartments and other sort of short-term stays. But I think we're certainly seeing more of that, and that become a more popular option, where perhaps the lines are a little bit blurred now between what is a hotel and what is a short-term rental. So that's that's something that we're quite at home with, but it's definitely over the last, even before 2025, but into 2025, it seems to be on the rise. And then obviously here in London, we've had some, not today, but some unseasonably hot weather the last couple of weeks, which obviously you can't not think about summer season and gearing up for that. So I think, as I mentioned before, with the various industry events that have gone on the last couple of months, have now fed into full gearing up stage for summer season. So the kind of themes we're talking about, people looking at well, how can I use not just AI, but how can I use technology to really get the most out of the system or the systems that I'm using? Where can I expand my portfolio? What can I do that's new?
Tell us about eviivo then. How does eviivo stand out in the PMS space?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, our beginnings are in independent accommodation. From as I said, B&Bs to guest houses to restaurants with rooms, and now firmly in the short-term rental space. So it's relatively unique in spanning all of those and having a robust feature set to serve their needs. But I suppose there's a few things we're really proud of. But just to pick out a couple. The connections that we have and the integrations that we've built with the major OTAs they're really functional, they're really deep. And what I mean by that is that um, we go for quality of the connection over quantity of connections. So we do integrate with the main global ones, obviously Booking.com and Airbnb and Expedia, Vrbo, and so on, as well as regional OTAs and much more. But what we insist on is having a really good connection where the data goes both ways, and it's not just a case of that initial setup I talked about before, forgetting about it and then it just runs. Obviously, hosts and property managers need to update things as they go. So whether it's updating a rate, blocking something out, we've got very very good instant connections to avoid overbookings, of course, but also some of the things that maybe you wouldn't think about updating, but when you need to update a tax here or policy there or photo there, that will instantly go to all the major platforms. So for us, it's about avoiding having to go into the OTA extranets, because inevitably, if you have to do that, you forget to do something. So we really want that to be a one-stop shop, and I think with our deep connections, that's what you can achieve. As well as that, we've got a fantastic mobile app. So it just means that when hosts are on the move, as they inevitably are, they should be able to, and they can do everything that they could do on the desktop as well. So, having that, whether it's part of your daily routine, as I mentioned earlier, waking up and having a cup of coffee and just checking out what's there on the dashboard from, who's in house, who's going to be checking in, what the cleaning situation is, and communicating with the cleaning companies you might work with on, what's ready, where there's a problem, flagging maintenance issue. That's all there from within the app. So, mobile, I think, generally has become more integral to our sort of online experience than desktop. I'm sitting in front of a desktop now, and of course there's rich functionality there, but having it in the mobile app and being able to deal with inquiries, bookings, payments, it's peace of mind, but it's also the difference between missing out on that booking and not saving the time and revenue that goes along with that. And the last thing I mentioned, James, is as an indication of our of how we work with our customers. So obviously we talk to our customers a lot, and we talk to companies who aren't our customers. We learn a lot from them. A couple of years ago, we actually came up with an established a day on the 24th of March, which is now recognised as Independent Accommodation Day, and so we've just had our third edition of that, and it's growing every year, and it's a chance to celebrate and put in the forefront and the limelight unique independent properties around the world. With our global reach, we're based here in the UK, but we do have offices across the US and around Europe. And it's not just for our clients who might be interested to know as well. It's for any property that wants to be part of it is more than welcome to take part. This year we published 2 books as well. One which was a collection of experiences curated by the contributors, which is, as I say, a range of unique independent properties around the world. And the other one, interestingly, was a cookbook, a recipe book, with recipes inspired by these different properties. So it made me quite hungry looking through it. But it was nice to see that output, which is sort of indicative of the way we work with customers. So we're very proud of that, and we think that sets us apart in in the PMS space.
Superb. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, great to hear those recipes. That's
Look them up.
nice way of looking at it. And in terms of helping your clients to get direct bookings as well, how does eviivo operate in that space?
Yeah, well, as I've mentioned, we encourage clients to work with OTA partners to use them as a really useful way of getting bookings. It's spreading the net globally, expanding the global reach of your property. Speaking as a guest as well, OTAs are often a starting point for a search. You might search by destination. You might just go to a site that you like because you've booked on that site before as a guest. So I think we acknowledge and hosts as well acknowledge that the OTAs provide a large chunk of bookings in many cases, and for good reason. Um, Getting direct bookings is good because it can cut out the commission element of that. Obviously, we recommend spreading the net wide because you're not paying commission until you get the bookings in. But then we would say once you have those bookings, you should leverage the technology and do what you can to really get to know the guest, and that includes getting what contact information you can in order to promote other things that you're doing. And I think by definition, giving that guest a memorable experience will make a connection between the guest and you as a brand over and above the connection they might already have with the OTA, which is also important. So I think clearly you need a place where the guest can go and book direct. So whether that's the first time around or the second time around or the third time around or at some point in the future, having that smart looking, professional looking, easy to use website, it's got to be easy to use because otherwise they'll go to a place that they know is easy to use. It's a place where you can store a treasure trove of information, which, as I said before, can then power your communication. But then, interestingly, I'm sure a lot of hosts are doing this as well. The direct booking platform, I suppose, should be somewhere where you're offering added value. So where you would be, potentially saving on commission versus OTA bookings, you can use that saving to really work out, well, what value add can you give? Is it a free breakfast? Adding additional service onto the same room rate as you're perhaps advertising without breakfast elsewhere? Could it be a perk like early check-in, late checkout, gift? Again, as I said before, it's how do you differentiate your offering from others, and that the direct booking website would be the place to do that. Obviously, getting them there can be a challenge, but there are obviously ways to do that. And as I said, there are different points in that overall guest journey over the various trips that they do that you can capitalize on that. But once you do, the goal would be to keep that in-house and keep that customer a direct customer, which, going back to what I was saying before, takes effect before the trip, after the trip, before the next trip. So yeah, it's something we obviously encourage, and we have the tools to enable hosts to do that. But it's an interesting one.
Fantastic. And if people want to find out more information about eviivo, where should they go?
They can go to our website at eviivo.com. That's 2 I's, eviivo.com. And we're very active on social media, so do check us out there. And look forward to talking to you.
Superb. We'll put those links in the show notes. Okay, then, Adam, we've got a few questions to finish. Your favourite brand in the STR space and why, apart from eviivo, of course?
Yeah, this is a tough one. There are lots of fabulous brands out there, of course. And I've got to know quite a few of them. I think, James, I'm going to go with Key Data Dashboard. They give some really key data, excuse the pun, but really nice looking, clean dashboard, to give the information, the data that you can then use to inform, the key decisions you want to make, whether that's the pricing you want to set or area in which you want to expand your portfolio. So heard very good things about that, and good team as well.
Yeah, great team. Great shout out there for Key Data, one of our sponsors, of course. An individual in the STR space you'd like to give a shout out to, and why?
Well, this is also very tricky because, of course, there's so many people we could give a shout out to, but I want to give a shout out to our clients. Very difficult to pick among them, but I think I'm going to go with Anna Harrison. Anna runs Panda Sanctuary. It's a PMC in the southwest of England, in and around Bath. A portfolio of luxury self-catering homes in that area. I know in the time she's been with us, she's grown significantly into double figures of property, and she's expanding in that region. But it's always great to work with clients like Anna, who are willing and ready to share feedback, to try new things out. So we've talked about AI, but anything new that we develop, whether it's new features or new integration, a number of clients, including Anna, are often on hand and able to help us, and we couldn't do without that. So shout out to Anna.
Finally, then, Adam, your number one tip to hosts who want to save time.
Well, if I may, I'm going to give two, James. Very quickly, the first one, we've already talked about it, but just to hammer home the point, I think automating your guest communications properly is a top tip. Not just with the basics, but really honing it to your style, to your brand. Looking at upsells, looking at your key information, FAQ, and checkout requests and things like that, and that will lead to better reviews and hopefully more time and maybe even more sleep for you. And another tip that I wanted to give, because it's one that's more periodical, let's say, something that you can do at a particular interval, and that would be to make a habit of regularly checking in with your software providers, learning what it is that they do in depth, looking through the release notes, talking to the team, finding out about what's new, just so that you can make sure that you're making the most of the solutions that you've got, and that what's out there. Talking to competitors, looking at the ever-changing landscape. So my tip would be to pick an interval, let's say every 3 months, and then just make that your task to go and look at what you've got and to verify that you're using it in the optimal way.
Two superb tips. Adam, it's been a real pleasure. Thanks for joining us on the Host Planet podcast.
Pleasure's all mine. Thanks very much, James.
Great to chat to Adam Buckmaster there from eviivo. If you're keen to save time in your short-term rental business, check out this top-rated PMS. And if you're looking for more free education, head to hostplanet.club, the fastest growing multimedia platform in the short-term rentals industry. We're proud to help hosts and property managers supercharge their businesses by sharing a wealth of free content. Head online to sign up for our newsletter, download our suite of ebooks, and listen to our podcast series. Until next time, happy hosting.